even need rebar.
I think it,
Just leave it like that.
do it on its own.
More?
Start flipping out of that one.
Take if I'm good enough. Okay. Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. Today, one of our fisheries crews are stocking Florida strain largemouth bass fingerlings here at Lake Thunderbird. Now, we've learned a lot about where Floridas do best in Oklahoma since the 80s when we first began this program. Now, luckily, the northern boundary of where Floridas do best in Oklahoma is about our I-44 corridor, which means all the lakes south and east of I-44 are on a heavily managed stocking schedule. Who knows, one of these fingerlings may just grow up to be a new state record largemouth bass. A wildlife department that understands a thing or two about growing and producing heart-racing big largemouth bass. Just another reason to love Oklahoma and the adventures that await you.
A lot of folks use the springtime as a reminder to get out there and go outdoors. And a great alarm clock for when we should start going outdoors is when the redbuds start to bloom. That's a good reminder of when the crappie are about to spawn, the sand bass are starting to run, the paddlefish are running, the morel mushrooms are starting to grow. But a lot of folks don't realize that that redbud blossom is actually edible. You can eat it straight off the tree or you can turn it into things. It has a light floral taste and a little bit sweet. Today we're going to take those flavors and elevate them even more by turning those blossoms into Redbud Jelly. The first thing that you'll need to do is pick a whole bunch of blossoms. I've got here about 4 cups. Now with that, we're going to take those, got a bowl here, and we're going to dump all those blossoms in. Now if you've got a couple of pieces of stem or leaves or anything like that, it's not a big deal. We're actually going to take and strain this once we're done. Got a pot of water that's boiling over here on the stove with about 4 cups of water in it. We're going to take these 4 cups and slowly pour it over those blossoms, letting them all get nice and soaked in. Perfect. Now it's going to, at first, look a little bit green. We're going to actually put some saran wrap over this and let it sit for at least 24 hours. And in that time, all of that natural pigment of those flowers is going to come out into the water and we're going to turn that into like a redbud tea. And that's what we'll use to actually make the jelly. So, I'm going to put some saran wrap on here. Get it nice and tight. Then we're going to slide this guy into the fridge. I've actually got one that I did yesterday so that we would be able to have some to work with today. So we'll slide this guy into the fridge real quick and grab that other one and we'll be good to go. So the first thing that we will need to do after we've sat for 24 hours is take our saran wrap off. And then I've got a strainer here and then just a large glass measuring bowl. That way we can see how much tea we're actually going to get. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take this bowl and slowly pour it in. And we'll start to get all those buds out and into the strainer. So once we've got a good amount of them in there and it's full, we can start to slowly press down on that. And it's okay if a few fall in there because we'll probably strain this a couple of times just to make sure we don't end up with anything in there. Great. Now we'll add the last little bit that's in there. Make sure we get all of the redbud tea out. Outstanding. Then we'll simply toss these in the trash. Now we can go a couple times here and straighten it back through. Just so we're being sure to get all those little spots out, because we won't want those in our jelly. Perfect. We're right about 4 cups. So 4 cups of tea is going to be the basis of our recipe. It's pretty simple. We'll take 4 cups of the Redbud tea, 4 cups of sugar. We'll use 6 teaspoons of the Sure Gel or pectin, and then we'll also use 4 teaspoons of lemon juice. We'll put all those in the pot here. We're going to go ahead and let this sugar start to dissolve into this tea, and we're going to move it over to the stove. Once we've warmed up a little bit, we're going to add the Sure Gel in. Now, while this is actually warming up, is a great time to start working on getting your jars put into your water bath. We want to do that so that the jars are all sanitary. Whenever we're dealing with making jams or canning or anything like that, we want to make sure that the jars are nice and clean so that we can have them on our shelves in our pantry for 18 months or more to be able to use them down the road. We're going to open up our water bath. Now, in this water canner, you can use a stove or a stock pot or anything like that, but you want to have a wire basket in there so that you're not letting the jars touch the bottom of the container. That'll actually make them break. So we don't want that. We can come in with our jars and we basically just want to let them get nice and hot so that they all become sanitary. So once all those are in there, we're just going to let them have a nice little steam bath, and we will let all that come up to temperature. So once we've added in the 6 tablespoons of pectin or Sure Gel, we're going to let that dissolve into our sugary tea and let that come to a hard boil for 1 minute. And a hard boil is basically a boil you can't stir down, so it'll kind of froth up. Once that's done, we're going to turn the fire off and move it over onto the counter. So we've brought this pot over from the stove after we've got our good hard boil, and we're going to let it cool just a little bit while we're moving our jars over here in a minute. But you'll notice I've put a towel down on the counter. That's going to let the jars cool down a little bit more slowly as the jelly's transferred into it. The making the jelly's done. Now we just need time on our side. But again, we want to have this jelly around for 18 months in our pantry. So I'm going to go pull the jars off of the stove. To do that, you'll actually want some jar tongs to be able to pull those out. From here, take our ladle, and we will start to try to not make a mess, ladle these into the jars. Now, we want to make sure to not overfill these, and so there's actually a tool called a headspace gauge to make sure that we have the right headspace. Each recipe for jelly has a little bit different headspace that it wants. For Redbud Jelly, they want about a 1/4 inch of headspace, so we want to make sure that we're not overfilling them. That's perfect. And you don't have to measure every one of them. Once you've got one measured, you can kind of use it as a reference as you're going through and filling the rest of your jars. All right, our jelly's all transferred. Put our pot in the sink. Now, for the actual canning part, move some of this stuff out of the way here so it's not in our way when we start to can. Now, with a jar, there's really 3 parts. There's the jar, the ring, and then the lid, which are in the pot boiling behind me. So I'm going to pull one of the lids, or set it on there, and then we'll put the rings on there. Now we're going to go back into the water canner or the hot water bath, this time for 10 minutes once it gets up to a boil. So we're going to open that up again using our tongs because those jars are still pretty warm, especially with the jelly in them. We're going to slowly transfer them back into the hot water bath. Now with this, you want to have enough water in there that the jars are going to have at least an inch of water over the top. That way they're going to be allowed to fully seal. Now, when you're canning, about 10 minutes is plenty to be able to get a good seal. So once those jars have boiled for about 10 minutes, we'll pull them out and we'll let them sit on the counter for about 24 hours. After that, we can put them on the pantry and enjoy them for months. So the next time that you're outdoors enjoying all that Oklahoma has to offer, whether that's fishing or hunting or foraging for mushrooms or whatever it may be, remember that there's another untapped resource that you may not have used yet, the redbud tree. So pop one of those redbuds off and taste it. Enjoy its light floral flavor and that little bit of sweet taste. If you really like it, pick a whole bunch, come home, and make some redbud jelly.
Here in the Spavinaw Wildlife Management Area, it was established in about early 1940s. It was actually started as a state game refuge to restock deer in Oklahoma. We're going to be conducting a bat acoustic survey on the WMA. We started about a little over a year ago. We're going to be using this mini iPad, and it actually has a little module in it. It's called from the Wildlife Acoustics. It registers the echolocation from the bat, and it'll give us a species of bat. That gives us two of them, but mainly gives us one for the pulse reading. One of the reasons why we're doing this type of survey is try to get more information about the non-game species, especially our bats. Especially some of them are the greater concern. We have some endangered species that utilize our wildlife management areas, and some are threatened species. With us doing habitat work, we can combine using this type of survey, not only for the bats, for the deer, for the turkey, but we can put it all together and see if what habitat work we're doing is affecting them, it's helping them or not. It's just another something, extra research that we can apply to our wildlife management skills. What we're looking at here is some of the recordings that we've done on the surveys. This is actually one of them, and it'll show the echolocation of that Pacific bat that came through. You can look right here where it's yellow, you tap on it, and it'll show your specific bat, which that showed the eastern red bat. What's kind of a cool technique about it, it gives you two different bats, but they'll show the pulse reading higher for one of them. And then also, if you go back here to another menu, you can go to a GPS view, which would be of the WMA, the GMA portion of the Spavinaw area. Right there is over about a year's worth of documentation of this research we've been doing. Each stop we go to is every half mile, and we'll listen for 3 minutes, and once that 3 minutes is done, we'll move on, continue on to our next stop. And we have about a 17-mile route that we do on the GMA portion. Before we was able to use the modern technology, we used traditional methods. Now with this new style, we're able to be more mobile versus the old way where it was just stationary and we could only do one location at a time. All right, well, we're here at our first location. What we do is before we get started, we're about close to half an hour before dusk. I'll take a relative humidity, our temperature, our wind speed, and our percent of cloud cover before we start. And once I do that, then we'll start our 3-minute session on our survey route. We're going to start the survey right now. As we start right now, usually when you first start out, not as many bats are flying, but as it gets darker, more species will come out a little later. So hopefully here in a little bit, we'll start catching a lot more bats flying, more activity. Well, that stops the first 3 minutes. We didn't get anything at this stop, so now we're gonna move on to our next half-mile stop down and see what we can get on the next one. We've already done about 5 stops. This is probably our 6th stop right now. And so now our bats are that get out late a little bit later when it's more dark. They're gonna start flying now. So hopefully this point on, we should start having bats at each stop. Right here is the echolocation coming up. Here comes a bat. It's coming through where the echolocation is getting caught on the recorder. And here pretty quick, I'll be able to show you what bat it is. And it was an evening bat. What this modular up here is doing, it's actually listening. It's got a speaker inside of it and a recorder. As a bat comes by, bats do an echolocation. It can actually read it, and it'll come up on the screen. We'll be able to see it when a bat comes by, and then once it about 10 seconds, it'll ID it for us, tell us which bat it is. And right now we're getting a little disturbance right here. It's mainly from the insects out here, but you can regulate that inside the settings and everything. So we just saw one, but here he goes. He's coming back. It was an evening bat. It's an eastern red. And gray modus. That's our endangered bat for the area. What's really cool about this, doing this type of survey, we can upload all this information to Google Earth, and we can zoom in on it also, and it'll show us all the routes that were done on the GMA portion. We can keep on zooming in here, and we'll actually have our survey routes just for the Spavinal GMA here. And then once we do that, we can click on one of these icons, and we can bring up the species of the bat, the time, the date, the longitude, latitude, and actually we can go to each stop and we can figure out exactly which one it is. It's like here it was January 7, 2019, 7:17 p.m. and it was a gray bat. With us collecting this information that we're just now utilizing with us, and we just have a little over a year's worth here just on Spavinal. We're actually established about 5 other WMAs throughout the state, throughout the region. To be able to start doing this. Hopefully someday this will be on all WMAs. We'll be able to utilize this for our research where we can say the bats are fluctuating, the population is going up or down, if any of our habitat management is affecting the bats. Plus it not only affects them, it could be affecting bird species, any other game or non-game species as well.
There's quite a bunch of bass in this pond. We hadn't ever fished in this pond.
I heard a lot about it.
It's got some pretty good sized bass in it.
Got some big ones in it too.
Yeah.
I mean, that one hit right at the edge of the water.
Yeah, I've had 2 do that to me. Kind of unexpected.
It took him.
Hung up in this tree here. It's a big one here. God. gosh! Ty! Look at the size of this fish! Look at this fish! Look at this fish! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh! 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 It's a big one! Oh my gosh! Oh! Oh! Oh, it's big! It's big! Oh my gosh! Stop! Stop! Don't go in. Oh man! Oh! Oh man! Oh my gosh! This is the biggest fish I've ever saw in my life. Oh my gosh! This is a big fish. Can I keep him? Please! Oh my gosh! Oh man! Man, he hit and I couldn't get him in. He was fighting bad. He's about 5, man. He's gotta be. Got another big one, man. Oh no, that ain't as big as that last one. Why do you keep catching? Staying with this. I'm staying with this one. Let's do one more cast and let's head on home, okay? Let's go get us some dinner. I'm getting hungry. Some baseball practice wore me out.
Okay?
Yeah.
That sure was a nice fish you caught today, Zach.
Thanks, man. You caught a nice one too, man. That was a big old fish that you caught.
I know. Hey, me and you at least caught 2 big ones. I remember one time when
Okay, last cast.
Hey, let me help. I mean, big guys had fun today.
Yeah, you too. Man, when do you think we can come back to this pond?
I don't know. But maybe we can talk them into coming back someday.
Yeah, that's a nice pond, man.
Yeah, maybe
It's
we can
got a bunch
talk
of big bass.
them into bringing us back tomorrow.
Yeah.
You forgot me. I wanna eat you.
Well, we hope today's stories remind you that Oklahoma is a perfect place to explore. So no matter how you choose to enjoy our state's incredible natural world, remember, your adventure starts with Outdoor Oklahoma. Oh, you can still see them all schooled up there together. Outdoor Oklahoma is produced by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation and is proud to serve and be funded entirely by sportsmen and women and outdoor enthusiasts who love and appreciate all things wild in the great state of Oklahoma.